Have you ever been ghosted? Do you know what ghosting is? In sales, if you've been in sales, you know what ghosting is. Ghosting is you and I have a conversation, you're a prospect, we have a conversation, we have a meeting, maybe go for lunch, coffee, maybe it's a Zoom meeting. We have a discussion, it seems like you're interested in what it is I'm selling, and then poof, let me do that again. Poof, you disappear. Well, what happened? We had a good conversation. I thought it went well. You seemed interested, and yet you've disappeared. Well, there's a problem here. When it comes to clients, prospects today, they're all very busy, okay? They're facing the average number of emails people receive is like 175 a day. They get phone calls. They're stuck in meetings all day. They're working from home in evenings, just like you are. And so they're very busy. And if you're being ghosted, doesn't necessarily mean you've lost the opportunity, but it is a sign that maybe you did something wrong in the early part of the sales process. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to avoid being ghosted, and then I'm going to give you a couple tips on what happens if you are being ghosted right now. What should you do? How do you get past that? I'm not going to guarantee these work, okay, individually, but collectively, I can tell you they work. I use these with my clients where I do sales training, even in conferences where I tell people to apply these. I get people emailing me all the time saying, Shawn, this worked. Well, of course it worked. That's why I told you about it. So make sure you get a pencil and paper ready so you can write down some notes and you can avoid being ghosted. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Shawn Casemore, and I help you learn how to be a top performing sales professional so that you can earn more money in less time, which is typically why we're in sales, right? It's to drive our, it doesn't matter. My point is, if you've never been here before, make sure you click subscribe. You'll be notified each and every time we release a new video. And if you like this video, click like. And of course, if you have your own strategies about how to avoid being ghosted, comment below. Let's jump into avoiding being ghosted. If you've been ghosted, there's a clear sign that you have not added enough value early on. Now, there's some other reasons you could be ghosted. We'll talk about those in a minute. But I want you to have the mindset that if you had a good conversation, because I like saying that, poof, right? Your prospect disappears. You didn't add enough value. You didn't compel them to want to continue meeting with you. Because at this point, they're not even meeting with you to say, now's not the time. We're too busy, we have no budget, whatever their excuse might be. They won't even meet with you to talk about that. So you need to make sure if this is happening to you, you go back to the early part of your sales conversations and see where the gap is. And here's the question, are you adding value? When people interact with you, when your prospects have a discussion with you, a meeting, when they receive an email, do they see it as valuable, or are you just taking their time? You see, we want to be giving, not taking. And when you just send people stuff, meeting requests, information that they have to read through, and it doesn't really add value, you're taking, not giving. So I want you to consider that as kind of the first step. Are you adding value in your initial conversations? If you are, you're going to find there's a lot fewer prospects that ghost you. Now, let's assume you are adding value, but we want to make absolutely sure we're not being ghosted. 3 steps I want you to take. Step number 1, to avoid being ghosted, I want you to say to your prospect, again, in the early part of your conversation, not at the beginning, you've gotten to know each other, you've talked about your product or service, you've asked some of your discovery questions, it's going well. I want you to ask this. Is there anything that would stop us from meeting and discussing this further? Ask that question. Tip number 1. Is there anything that would stop us from continuing this conversation? Right? That kind of question, and then you stop. Don't talk again until they respond. Okay? See what they have to say. This is where you're flushing out objections or reasons why they might ghost you. Okay? The next thing I want you to do is before you close that conversation, that meeting, before you leave the meeting, before you leave the Zoom call, whatever you're doing, I want you to ask this next question. You say, I've really appreciated your time today. Did you receive value from our conversation? If they say, yes, I did, say, well, that's great. Would you mind, just for my own learning, what was it you found most valuable? If they say, oh, I don't know, that's kind of far-fetched, you've got a problem. You haven't added value. Now, you can learn in those situations and say, well, may I ask a follow-up question? What would it have been that I could have shared that you would found a value, right? If you're in the learning mode, there's a way to learn if you get a negative response. But let's assume they answer, well, say, yeah, it was valuable. Great. That's the second step we've taken to try and avoid being ghosted. The third thing I want you to do is as you're leaving the Zoom meeting, as you're walking to the office, as you're about to hang up the call, okay, whatever the situation is in your conversation, I want you to say this. Just before I go, I just want to ask again, has this been a good conversation? Because I want to continue this conversation, but I just want to make sure that you also want to continue. The last thing I want to have happen here is suddenly I get ghosted because maybe you're not comfortable telling me something about this discussion. Now, you can shorten that up and say, just a question for you before we go. You mentioned you got value from this conversation and that you'd like to meet again. We've secured that meeting, right? You do that before you get off that call or out of the meeting. We've got the next meeting booked. Is there any reason why you wouldn't meet with me again? Is there something that might arise, right? Now, the longer version is more if you're still trying to build trust and you're appealing to the buyer. The shorter version is you've built trust, you're confident, things are going really well, you throw that in. 3 different questions, you know me and questions, that you can incorporate in your sales conversation to just ensure that you're not going to get ghosted. But what happens if you still do? If you get ghosted, you follow up, you've emailed, you've called, you've maybe texted if you had their number and you've texted before, right? And you're still not getting anything from them. I want you to send an email that says this. The title says confused and the content says this, and let's use John as the name of the prospect, okay? Say, hi John, it's Shawn. Just wanted to follow up with you. We spoke a couple weeks ago about X, our product, our service, improving your XYZ, whatever it is you spoke about. Keep it brief, like a 1 or 2 line statement here. And then what I want you to say is, so since that conversation, unfortunately we haven't been able to reconnect. And then say, is it something that I did or didn't do? And then sign off. You see, that's appealing to their emotions. And as long as you keep that brief and they can see that in their preview window, that last question, you're gonna get a response. Doesn't happen every time, but I'd say it's an 85+% chance they'll respond to that question because you're appealing to their emotions. So try that if you are being ghosted or you do get ghosted despite these other steps, and make sure you comment below with your own strategies and tips that will work for you. Next steps, so you can get notified each and every time I release a new video. If you liked this one, click like, and make sure you check out these ones. There's lots of videos, lots of strategies. Take advantage of them. I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.